joins us. She's the CEO of the Show Me Institute. Good morning, Brenda Talent.
Good morning, McGraw.
You can talk. We can talk Show Me Institute, or we can talk traffic this morning. What do you want to do?
Well, I'll just tell you, through rain, snow, sleet, but not sunshine.
Sunshine has crippled the traffic today. No rain, no ice. Sunshine's brutal. All right. So late last week, Dan Buck came out with another proposal for this St. Louis sports complex. Now they're talking about something in Hazelwood. This is a private business, and yet they're knocking on our door again.
Yeah, it seems like we look at these types of issues in the news every couple of months. And I'm not going to make a comment. They've got an idea for a massive sports complex. But you do have to ask yourself, why is it in our region we see these kind of, I call them bread and circuses, coming up again and again, and no one's stepping back and saying, have we learned from our prior lessons? Isn't the definition of insanity, you keep doing the same thing and expect a different result? And
Right.
Why do I say that? Because right now they're looking at the St. Louis Mills property. And let's just take a trip down memory lane. St. Louis Mills, when it was proposed back in 2002, received over $18 million in tax increment financing. It also created a transportation development district in which it issued over $30 million worth of bonds. And so now that property was supposed to bring in 3,000 jobs. It was built on wetland. At the time, everyone knew it would hurt Northwest Plaza. Well, what happened? Did we have a booming retail establishment develop? No, it never produced the promised jobs.
Right.
It sold in 2015 for $9 million. This $117 million property sold for $9 million. It had outstanding debt. The bonds are still outstanding, and now we have a proposal coming forward. And without reflecting on the nature of that proposal, we have Hazelwood talking about, well, we'll retire the existing debt in the transportation development districts. Why? So more debt could be issued to help with the new development. And then we have the county and Hazelwood talking about bumping in some additional taxpayer funds to make, this huge sport complex a reality. And also, I just want to add this, because this is always interesting. This proposal came before Chesterfield late last year, or in the summer of last year. The price tag on it went from 42 to 55 million. Now they're talking about upwards of $130 million for this project. And it's because it's gotten bigger. And you have to ask yourself, why has it gotten bigger? Is there a business purpose for that? We hear there's no other sports complex like this in any other part of the nation. Could there be a reason why?
All right, lots of things to dissect here. So right now, the Mills is basically a ghost town with a blues practice rink in there.
Right, and I think there are a couple of retail establishments that are still operating.
Yeah, and there's a couple of freestanding stores in the parking lot or whatever else. So what is Hazelwood to do? Just let this eyesore just sort of collapse on its own weight and just have this empty mall there for the next whatever?
Well, actually, I would say, yeah. I mean, eventually what's going to happen is the market's going to work. I mean, one could argue you should have left it as wetland to begin with. Who knows how much water it pushed off into other parts of our region.
Right.
But, it sold for $9 million. Someone is holding that property. They've got an incentive to do something other than just hold it and pay money on it, right? But the other part I would say is, if this sports complex is such a great idea, why wouldn't private investors just step forward and fund it? Why not? Why wouldn't they go ahead and put in the money? They're talking about the fact that, we build it, they'll come. There'll be hotels, there'll be restaurants, it'll bring in millions and millions of dollars of revenue. If that's the case, private business would be willing to invest. There is no market failure here. We see property that, was used for one purpose, it goes out of business. Eventually someone comes and uses it for a productive purpose, if in fact there's a market for that use.
You have to ask the question, why doesn't Chesterfield want this $100 million development?
Well, there were a lot of different issues involved with that. My recollection is that Chesterfield was going to lease a portion of property it already owned to this business. In addition, Chesterfield was supposed to acquire another 22 acres so that there would be enough acreage for it. And let's just say that when the city council looked at the terms that were being proposed, it didn't look like Chesterfield was coming out necessarily on the winning end of that.
Right, yeah. So where are we now? This is just a proposal. Hazelwood is, doing their due diligence?
They're doing their due diligence. The county is also evaluating what they're willing to chip in. And of course, the threat is that if you all don't do it, St. Peter's will do it. So again, I would ask, why is it as a region we're not stepping back and looking at this and saying, well, what really makes the most sense? Why are we engaged in this bidding war for something that supposedly would benefit the entire region?
Right.
Which I question.
Right.
But.
But where is St. Peter's on? I mean, is St. Peter's really looking at this, or are they not really? I mean, St. Charles has done a pretty good job of sort of turning their back on some of these.
You would know that better than I. Only know from what's been reported.
I don't know anything about St. Peter's either, but I mean, St. Peter's has tried to do, or St. Charles anyway. Steve Ellman, the county executive, has done a pretty good job of trying to say, hey,
He has.
Yeah.
And the other issue here, again, just sort of stepping back from this, and if you were a business person, why is it that we have these obligations on, and people go, well, taxpayers aren't paying for it. You are paying for it if you're paying an increased sales tax. You are paying for these improvements, but stepping back from that, why is it that the obligations that the communities take on far exceed the purported useful life of these facilities? I mean, we've got the dome, right?
Right.
And the debt on that exceeds its useful life. I mean, you can go through one project after another where the community's on the hook for maybe 30, 40 years, and the useful life of the facility is 15, 20.
It's a very interesting point. That's one that I have not heard of recently, but that's a very good point. We're paying on this. That's like buying a house and you're still paying on it long after you moved out.
Right.
You've got more online with this?
Yes, please visit us at showmeinstitute.org. I'm having a problem today. That's sunshine.
Showmeinstitute.org. Showmeinstitute.org. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, McGraw.
8:48.